So thank you very much. Thank you, Pader, for that chairing that session, and a cracking session it was too. It's time to say thank you, and before you go, though, there's going to be 3 thank yous. I think Pádraig and Lorna have a few words to say before we go. I just, if I may, now that I'm here, grab the opportunity to say that I was, I have to say, it was just a very inspiring day. We got a combination of expertise from this very, what was it, this world that's really very simple but shrouded in mystery and intrigue, namely the funds and the markets and all of that. I think I learned something very important, and that is that there isn't a clear dichotomy between the rational and the moral in what we do, that we need to develop a better understanding of what it is to be rational and a more concrete understanding of what it is to be moral. And I was particularly struck by terms that I learned today about the social return and the environmental return. It's not all about what the bottom line is at the end of the day. It's about what the overall impact is in terms of us as a species, society, the environment, the world we live in. It's about what its overall impact is, and it's rational to ask what the overall impact is. And we need help from each other in achieving that higher level of rationality. It isn't something that can be left to some notion of the rational individual. And in fact, I learned that those rational individuals in the market are in fact sometimes prone to herd-like behavior. So, are they thinking rationally, or in fact are they following the crowd? So these are the paradoxes of the real world. And that means that there is a sense of possibility, that there is a sense of mutability. And while it is true that if you like, the movement for divestment and the movement against climate change is a small movement globally. It's a tiny movement. It has huge possibilities because of the evidence is weighing increasingly in its favor. And the theme of the conference we had in June was from evidence to action. And the evidence that we were talking about was the evidence on climate change itself, and the fact that this was increasingly unassailable, and that the climate deniers were on the back foot. And we know that a lot of climate denial was sustained by the inertia and the vested interests within the fossil fuel industries. Now we hear that, in fact, the reality, whether it's the reality that is dawning about the imperative of the 2 degrees as a limit, or whether it's other factors, the long-term future of the fossil industry is -1. And that, in fact, the rational choice increasingly is to move in another direction. And that will help us immensely in advancing the case for a fossil fuel-free world, a carbon-neutral economy, a sustainable way of doing economic activity in the future. And that is heartening because it means that we have something to work with. And so we have another meaning for the concept of evidence to action. We now have evidence about the way the market works and about the possibilities for shifting from one type of production and distribution of goods to other types. But that is going to be a long, arduous process of making that. I think a managed transition was the phrase that you used. We're more used to bubbles that burst, but hopefully we can make a managed transition to a carbon-free economy that won't involve just the sudden bursting of the carbon bubble at some point when we're then forced with very stark choices indeed. Anyway, that's me gassing off. My carbon emission for the afternoon shall cease now. I hand over to Lorna and Pádraig to say a few words.